Simcha, celebration of life.
Hello and welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm your host, Aaron Halevi. In today's show, Rabbi Sackstein discusses the contribution of Lithuanian Jewry to the world of Torah study. We bake traditional challah for the Sabbath meal and experience the art of candle making in the holy city of Tsfat. Jews trace their origins in Lithuania back to the days of Grand Duke Gediminas, who founded the first Lithuanian state in the 14th century. By the late 15th century, there were already thriving communities who had their own distinct and highly developed Jewish culture. In our new three-part series, Rabbi Danny Sackstein elaborates on the profound role Lithuanian Jewry played in a variety of Jewish ideologies and rational religious thought.
The Jews began to arrive in Europe many centuries ago. It's been almost 1700 years already that there's been a Jewish community in Europe. Jews arrived in Europe with the Roman legions, and communities built up in Western Europe, in Central Europe, and in Eastern Europe. The major buildup of population in Eastern Europe was largely around the 15th century. There were two events that took place in Europe that influenced the movement to the east. First one was the Spanish Inquisition. Jews were already being expelled from Spain and leaving Spain at the beginning of the 15th century, with the culmination of the Inquisition in 1492. And at a similar time too, there was a large amount of persecution in Germany, and the Jewish communities in Germany, as a result of the anti-Semitism they faced, also began to move east. Lithuania at the time was a very large, powerful empire, and therefore, with the size of that empire, there was significant economic opportunity, and that attracted the Jews to move to the east and to Eastern Europe. Jewish life in Lithuania primarily consisted of small little villages called shtetls or shtetlach, as they're known in Yiddish, and they were villages of 40 or 50 Jewish families, and each one had its own character, has its own style. Each one had its own Jewish infrastructure. So usually within those towns there was a rabbi, and very often the rabbis of those towns were great Torah scholars. The towns also usually had a posek, which was a halachic decider, a rabbi who had great knowledge in the area of halacha. So he dealt with the halachic questions, the questions of Jewish law, and the rabbi dealt with the questions of with the issues of the community, with the education of the community, with the general needs of the community. There was also a third individual, which was a maggid. The maggid was a professional speaker, and he would go from town to town. His job was to inspire, was to bring people to greater heights in terms of their spiritual journey. And really the maggid was the entertainment of the town. When the maggid came to town, so the shops closed and everybody went to hear this wonderful speaker. The Lithuanian Jewish community was by and large a very observant community. Rather than the great spiritual epiphanies of the Hasidic movement, the world in Lithuania was more simple, was more grounded, was based on a dedication to Torah learning and a sincere and pure relationship with God. One of the great tragedies of our modern times is that 94% of Lithuanian Jewry was wiped out in the Holocaust. And the method of execution of the Nazis was with the Einsatzgruppen. The Einsatzgruppen were the SS death squads that followed close behind the front lines of the soldiers, and they gathered up the Jews and took them out into the forests. They made the Jews of all the little towns dig their own graves, and they shot them, they machine gunned them down. And with the destruction of Lithuanian Jewry, we see the destruction of their style and their approach to life and to Judaism. One of the hallmarks of Lithuanian Jewry was their broad approach and their balanced view of life, and the ability to be open and to see the world in an open way, to be unthreatened with regards to their religious practices, and incorporating different ideas and different concepts and different worldviews, and at the same time remaining very steadfast and loyal to their spiritual principles. So with the destruction of Lithuanian Jewry, we see pretty much the destruction of that worldview and approach to Judaism, save one place in the world, and that is South Africa. Because in South Africa, over 80% of our community hails from Lithuania. Life in the shtetl was very hard, and towards the end of the 19th century and beginning of 20th century, there was a massive wave of immigration from Eastern Europe to Western countries. The first choice for most people from Eastern Europe leaving was to go to the golden Medina, to the golden land of the United States. And the staggering numbers of Jews that arrived in the United States in the beginning of the 20th century, the end of the 19th century, is quite unbelievable. From the year 1880 to the year 1920, 3 million Jews left the shores of Eastern Europe and arrived in the United States. At that time, there was also a significant immigration to South Africa. About 40,000 Jews came from Lithuania to South Africa in those years. And that's really the basis and foundation of the South African Jewish community.
The Jewish Sabbath bread, known as challah or kitka, embodies the concept of taking something physical and elevating it to something spiritual. Emunah Rachel Van Zyl explains that it is not only physical nourishment, but that when we eat challah, we are also being nourished spiritually with the baker's ideas and blessings made during the process of making the challah.
Welcome to my home on this beautiful Friday, Erev Shabbat, and I've been given the privilege of making challah today, and I'm very, very excited to be sharing the wonderful experiences of this journey of challah making. And I'm going to have lots of fun doing it, but there are some wonderful things to add to this very spiritual process of making challah. So I'm going to use 4 packets of instant yeast, and to activate yeast, it needs sugar. Sugar actually helps it grow, and from that, it needs warm water. So I put the four packets in. Just a very nice little tip. You don't need much sugar. You need a little bit just to activate it, and then a little bit of water just to get it going. If you're looking at it, it's already changed color and texture, and it's almost like it's swimming. And as you know, Torah is referred to as water, and it's movable. So you know, you can almost look into your challah as that spiritual light. I like to do that with everything that I do because it elevates the process. So I use 2 eggs, and that's, again, eggs are a sign of fertility, and that is my bashir to myself. That's the foundation of this family. So I mix that egg in. So you can now start adding all your ingredients. So I've put in my 2 eggs. Now again, I like to use my hands. I feel, I touch, I sense with my hands. I create with my hands. So I like to use my hands. I just keep them clean. So into my hand are my sugar, which would be the equivalent of 7 nice big tablespoons. And I use the 7 because we're coming into the 7th day, Shabbat. And in this, I'm thinking almost of the sand in the Negev. Then salt. There again, I don't use much. I use small little teaspoons. 7 again. We never use too much salt because it is known to be a feeder of the ego. So we use very, very little salt. As you can see, it's ready. So there's your 7. Okay, and I'll just mix that in. Now I'm going to put my added flavors. So I use honey, and sometimes what I do with my honey is I do a shin, just a beautiful shin, or a beautiful form of art into my yeast that's now activated. And I also use a sweet molasses with the honey. So I've mixed that in. Now, I don't use sunflower oil. I use olive oil because the land is so significant. Olives, olive oil, and the flavor of olive oil in any bread dough is amazing. And it also somehow makes your dough very, very soft. It's a different feeling. So yeah, I do, like, now I'm going to a different number and I'm just trickling, 12. And there I'm thinking about the 12 tribes. The 12 tribes that entered the land and just paved the way for us. So now I've got a little more than 4 cups in here, and I'm going to more or less use the equivalent of 4 cups. The whole idea is to work the flour in and then see you get your dough. So at this point I put my whisk away. I've got sieved flour, and this is the 2.5 kilo packet that you can buy, which is enough for your actual brocha that you're going to make, and that pertains to about 16 cups. And I'm going to just work my hands around. Okay, and this is where you need to be a little patient, because it's going to form a dough, and then it's going to be very, very, very special. Once it's in a dough, then we come to a place where it's all about you and Hashem. And this is my best part of challah making, because now I'm coming to the end of my week, and I'm also coming into my space on Erev Shabbat, and I'm thinking to myself, this is where Hashem and I can really talk and have a conversation. And now you put your tefillot into your dough. And it's almost now going to become a rhythmic movement, almost like the waves, how they roll in the ocean, back and forth. I like to almost chant words that are important in my daily prayers, remembering that this is the tefillot of the woman. The man do it in the week, not on Shabbat. We prepare it as well, but this is the same, and then we sit back and we enjoy that. I like to chant, so I say Chesed, and I think about what Chesed is in my life. Gevurah, strength. I need the strength to get through my week. Oh, there are times when it's up and down and busy. So Gevurah, Tefillah. And all these feelings that you're feeling are going into your dough. Right into that beautiful dough that you're making. It's just working its way into one. And that's actually what Shabbat is. Shabbat comes and brings us together. And that is the dough. What I do also is I put oil around it. And there we go. And then I just work it in. And that is the dough, which will now rise to virtually the top of this bowl. If dough is cold, it doesn't rise. If it's a nice warm atmosphere, it rises. A very, very good tip when you're wanting to rise your dough, I pour very warm water into a basin, and then I actually put the dough, the actual basin of dough, into that, and it gives you a very quick rise. Instead of an hour, it'll rise in 20 minutes. So here we have our basin with hot water. It's now, of course, come down to room temperature, but it was I put my tap on full hot when I put it in, and it's wrapped like a little baby in its basin. And it's a very, very soft, almost like a little new baby skin. It's that beautiful texture. So I think that's very important to know, and it's really taken probably 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at the most. So now I'm going to take my challah. Before I actually plait the dough and shape it, this is the time to take the challah. So that is my challah, and I will be doing the brocha before I plait. When we light our candles, we actually are channeling all the light coming in. We're bringing it in, we're channeling it in this, so we actually bring in the holy into this, and of course for your Shabbat candle, it's a two-way. It's almost like Jacob's ladder. It's going straight up and down. It's coming together. But the same with the Challah. It's also this channeling of bringing the holy into the mundane. So when you take your Challah, you know, keep this in mind, that you are now performing one of the most, it's a very sacred, holy space that you're creating around you. So you take your portion, and now I'm going to do the brocha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lafrish challah. And now I hold up my piece and I say, Charei ze challah. And I'm channeling, and my piece is held up, and I'm channeling the light of Hashem. And my brocha that I will say is Yehi Ratzon milfanecha. Our God, the God of our fathers, that you bless our dough as you bless the dough of our mothers, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. And may we be blessed as in the verse, you shall give the first yield of your dough to the Kohen to make a blessing rest upon your home. And now as I'm fulfilling the mitzvah of Challah with all my heart, so may the compassion of the Holy One, blessed be He, be aroused to keep me from sorrow and pain always. Amen. There are various ways of plaiting, of course. So we're going to just stick with the 3-plait challah. And you just need to roll almost like a little Play-Doh. And you just roll. And the best thing about challah is that it never tastes the same. So it really is a mirror of the woman of the home. And wait till it's baked, and the fragrance and the smell that comes into your home. I know that my family will say, Shabbos is near. Shabbos is so close. And that for me is the best part of making challah and performing a mitzvah that I know many women throughout this world are doing at this very exact time. So it's almost like we're in a motion together, you know. And I'm sure right now I have sisters throughout the world, and even in the Holy Land, which we all would love to be in, are doing this process and experience those personal feelings, but it's one body. It's women coming together, and it's one body shaping this perfect shape, which once, you know, when we've done our challah, that's where Hashem really is close into in our space, because we're giving back. We're saying, Hashem, yes, our temple doesn't exist, but we want to do this. We want to give you this back, because we know to be connected to you is going to feed a very, very holy space within us. And I just do a little egg wash. So now I'm going to put the challahs in the oven. And remember, the oven is not switched on yet, because I'm going to actually rise my challahs in the process of baking them. 18 minutes at 180 and 18 minutes at 150. So there we go. I just slip them in like that. So our challah is now coming out and ready to eat.
Welcome back. Perched high on the mountain in the mystical old city of Tsfat, Tsfat candles hand dip and weave beeswax into beautiful Jewish ceremonial candles. Candle maker Rakefet Ulio has used her experience to offer candle making sessions at the nearby International Center for Tsfat Kabbalah.
Candles in Judaism are very important because Jews used candles in a daily base. If it was before electricity, if they wanted to learn Torah after dark hours, they needed candles. We need candles for Shabbat to light before a holiday, at the end of Shabbat and a holiday. Also, we use them as Yotzeit candles, and we have a lot of uses for candles in Jewish life. So if you wanted to get extra taxes from Jews, you used to put out a law called the candle tax. The Gemara also speaks about candles, about how the flame of a candle is like our soul. I think you could see that mostly when you pray or when you hear music that really influences you. You can't stay still. You move if it's like this or like that, just like the flame of the candle that can never stay still. We started making the candle workshops here in Tsfat after a request from different groups that were looking for something like this. Now, nowhere in Tsfat do we have anything that is similar to that. There is the Tsfat candle store, but they don't provide workshops. As a kid, I learned how to make candles in an arts and crafts class. So at the International Center for Tsfat Kabbalah, we sat down and we came up with this concept of what to give, what to do, how to make people enjoy actually making the candles, but also have more like information about what candles are. And we started to develop it and how to bring Kabbalah, Judaism, Tsfat, and the technical use of candles and how to make them into one workshop. So what are candles made out of? Wax. What is wax made out of? So this is one of my favorite things. We have groups from all over the world come to the store where I work, and we ask them this question, and usually we have like groups from universities, from whatever, teachers, professors, we have all different types, and every time I ask, what is beeswax made out of, the answer, bees. But girls, baby oil is not made out of babies, and the same thing with beeswax, it's not made out of bees. They take the honeycomb, they empty it, they melt them and remelt them, and so on. The people who come for the candle workshops, there's a big variety of them. If it's elderly people who really enjoy them, it's really fun for them to do. We have groups of elderly come over and over again because they really like doing it, different groups obviously. If we have families that come for a bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah group, and it also, like for a bat mitzvah, it's a very important thing, connecting to candles, because every Jewish girl from the age of 3, but especially from the age of 12, starts lighting candle before every Shabbat or holiday. If it's a boy, then there's the Havdalah and first Chanukah and many more events. And it's also, you have parents that want to go shopping or traveling alone and want to find something for their kids to do. So it's for everyone, I guess, kids, families, and adults. We have people who come from different universities that want to know something about just like, candles in Judaism, how to make it, just to have fun. They come. We have some groups that have more intel about Jewish life and some that have less. Yesterday we had a group of girls, Chabad girls, Lubavitch girls, that know more about candles in Judaism. But at the same time, we have groups that have no background in Judaism at all that also enjoy this workshop.
Well, that's all we have for this week's episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. As always, we'd love to hear from you, so please send us a message on Facebook at Spirit Sister Productions. From me, Aaron Halevi, and the Simcha team, have a great week ahead.